And so every time I encounter a tough situation, since then I just laugh. Oh, things can't be any worse than this. Oh my gosh.
I'm your host, Sha Hurley. Each week, I invite a conscious leader in tech, sales, and beyond to share their inner journey, how they overcome obstacles, how they achieve success while staying true to themselves, and above all, what makes them human beings. I hope those authentic conversations serve as an inspiration for you as you continue your own inner journey of self-discovery, healing, and mastery. Okay, hi, Izumi.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I got super excited for the conversation we're going to have today because we share a lot of common things. You and I both come from, Asia and then work in the US for a long time. And I would love to maybe start with the intro. Izumi, have you to share about some of your journey, the time when you transitioned from Japan to the US, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Sha. So I think I moved to Bay Area about 8 years ago. And until then, I started my career in Japan. And then for probably 14, 15 years, I was with the same company. And then I moved here and supported some Japanese business in the beginning of 2 years. Then and really changed my career when I moved to the permanent position and entity in here. So that was what happened 8 years ago. And I moved to Google, I think it was 2 years ago. The first 2 years, I was still belonging into the Japanese entity, but just transferred, the patient was transferred here, but 50% of all my work is with the Japanese members, and the other 50% was people here. And I think it was smooth. And next 5 years, when I moved out of the Japanese entity and permanently became an employee here, I remember my manager always used to tell me you have to be more direct, low context. And then I still feel like I'm not there yet. But right now, once in a while, when I work with the Japanese people, I do notice I am much more direct than them. I cut in. I don't let other people sometimes stop and raise hand. Hold. Can I jump in? I used to never do that. So I do feel the change, gradual change over the 8 years. And I was wondering why it wasn't that much of a big difference when I moved here, because I had much more much harder time when I moved to Japan, which is supposed to be my home country after I was born in London and spent some years there. And that, I've always felt living in Japan as an outsider since I first started living in there when I was 4 years old, 3 years old, until I finished the school, graduate school, when I was 24 years old. Those were my dark days where I really dug deeper into who I am. And because of that experience, all the turmoil that happened after I moved to the Bay Area, I was able to cope with it because of my past experience. So that was what I started thinking about when I think about moving here and the transition difficulties.
When you say outsider, can we maybe talk a little bit more on that? Because I remember my transition from, I come here for school and when I was 17, and then I remember the time when I also feel a little bit outsider. I feel like I'm not 100% Chinese, I'm not 100% American, and I'm also in the process of learning about the culture, how people communicate here, and also shedding the part of me that was so Chinese. For example, when I first worked on Google, there's people commenting on Sha, please do not bring in that Chinese culture here. And I had to ask, what do you mean by that? And then the leader at the time, he was our director, and he said, I noticed that Chinese people overwork. They tend to stay till really late time, because I was the only person in the office at that time. Everyone else was gone. And I remember I was posting on social media saying, oh God, I'm the only person in the office. And so he was basically commenting on how that could create a toxic culture, encouraging people to work way too much. Whereas when, on Google at the time, we're trying to encouraging work-life balance. So I had to let go of that part of me I cultivated when I was in China. Yeah, so maybe you can share more about the outsider part. Like what do you exactly mean by outsider feeling that way?
Yeah, so it was like, when I was 3 or 4. But when I look back, I really didn't fit in. I was born in London and spent time until 3 or 4 in a like environment everybody like speaks up. Probably this is my assumption, and also maybe because I couldn't maybe speak in English so fluently. I mean, no child can speak in their own language fluently when I was with their 2 or 3. But maybe there's no fear in me. So when I went to Japan, I was completely different from others in a way that probably I remember. Probably my sympathy level was low. Like, do you call it apathy? And I looked it up in Google, disinterest in social interactions. Like, I didn't follow the pack. I didn't care what other girls were doing. And I was in that way so independent. On the other hand, everything about Japanese culture is being the same, like being in the pack, read between the lines, fit in, like obey the powerful people. Other people have to be the same. Don't make a turmoil between the people. So I was so different in that way that as a result, I was always like excluded as a weird person, especially girls group. There's always like one girl who's popular, who's so powerful, but I never not obey, but I never follow the pack with that girl as a leader.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but maybe that made them feel so threatened or something. So that they were always like trying to move me out of the loop because maybe they felt that's a safer or something. And at the time, I didn't know the reason why they were doing that to me. So I was in so much pain. And that continued on for maybe 15 years or so. So that was the feeling I've had. And so I still have a little bit of fear when there's like a group of women and I'm here all alone standing. I feel a little bit of like my chest going tight and like blood pressure going up because of the flashback.
That's so interesting. Thank you. That's so interesting because 5 months ago, I was literally on the team with you being the manager. And if you think about our team, it was a group of women, right? It's all women. How did you handle that dynamic? Because first of all, thank you for sharing that. We all carry certain, I call this wounds or whatever from the past to our present life. And the fact that you're aware of that, how it's being affecting you, I think that's your superpower because a lot of us don't even know how our past has been affecting our present moment. So yeah, anything you feel comfortable sharing?
So exactly. But that like horrible experience from my childhood days really helped me be aware of myself, not only myself, of course, that helps the most. But if you're more and more aware of yourself, you can kind of be aware of others maybe. And that helps you not assume anything from the reaction that you see on the other people. Like say something happens. Like good example is, oh, that person's a little snappy. You are putting a lot of like meaning, your imaginary meaning into the small fact that you're seeing right in front of you. Maybe the person was in hurry and replied to you, in a rushed way, but you're putting the meaning snappy when it wasn't anything to do with you. And through my experience of like me interpreting how girls react so much and making me feel miserable, I learned like by asking 5 times, why am I feeling that way? I learned that it's so easy to put like negative meaning to anything that happens in front of you. You don't have to do that way. And once you know that, like whenever you start to feel like any interaction with female professionals, if you see a group of women, you do like understand you don't have to put any negative meaning into it. And it's easier for me to cope with many types of situations. I think, so I cannot like 100% get rid of my reaction. Like, there's a pack of women there, I gotta be careful. But other side of Izumi, who learned about my experience awareness, also teaches me to calm down. You don't have to put negative like impression in what you see in front of you. it's okay. And I was able to like move on in much easier way.
I think it's a powerful story because things happened in the past. It's in the past. But sometimes we bring in that past with us and carry that huge bag or pack. And it's heavy. And then we know it's heavy. We just don't want to put it down. But you're talking about, literally talking about from time to time, you're allowing yourself to just put that baggage down and allow yourself to choose a different way to show up in your leadership or your whatever situation you are in. That's so beautiful, the fitting in. Before we jump on the call, you and I literally talking about a couple of our previous colleagues got pregnant, become mother. And then something I've been keep thinking about, whether I want to be a mom or not, is I don't want to cause any trauma to the future child, which means I need to work on myself to fully heal. And then maybe I'll be ready to become a mom. And just because some of the past trauma that I had, it's not like I get raped or like a huge trauma, but like it's developmental trauma. Like, sometimes I feel abandoned where I did not get that emotional support from my parents when I was a child. And it's still affecting my life sometimes. I realize some of the decisions I make, right? And I see that you're nodding. But then I realized there's no way for us to be fully healed and then become a mother. That's almost like a mission impossible. And then it's so beautiful that you're talking about your experiences, because then we're allow adults version of ourselves to heal as we continue our life. And a workplace could also be a beautiful place to do that healing work. What else?
Yeah, I guess, of course, being a female professional in a really male-dominant environment, that was always hard. And still, I'm working on it. When I joined the company, I think there was only 1 or 2 female account manager in the company in total. Because like sales, account management, that's regarded as like mostly like male-dominated environment, because the customers, all the IT leadership, CIOs, CXO, they are all like male professionals. Leading and negotiating, that's probably like 30 or 40 years ago. Still, it was thought as like it's better to have like male professional lead that kind of job. And so the reason I chose a non-Japanese company to join is because I thought it would be a little bit easier for a female professional to thrive. And that was true, but still you deal with all the old like culture companies, that's your customers. So I still try to not put a lot of effort not to intimidate the customers or even not intimidate my like male colleagues in Japanese companies. You don't want to show yourself as super smart or too strong, too pushy, because that would be seen as like, oh, she's an aggressive employee. I really wanted to avoid that. So I often play like a dumb girl on purpose. That's the way I used to probably like survive. Don't be too smart. Show like, maybe dumb girl is a too strong word, but I try to show my vulnerable myself so that the other side would feel like relieved, feel less intimidated. If you come up with great ideas, try not to show them, but come up with like, just say out loud, not so smart ideas. So everybody else would be feeling relaxed to just throw their ideas in, and then continue doing that to get like fans or to get people support you more. Oh, Izumi needs help because she cannot come up with a great idea, something like that. But the sad part is I was successful doing that, and I still overdo it here. And now, because I've been doing it for more than 15 years, I don't know if that's my original me or if I'm trying to still play a role to get more support from other people. I sometimes get mixed up in that. So I'm still in the journey of trying to figure out, is this a real me or is it me playing like a, I don't know, not so smart Izumi?
Which one do you think is more true?
I think both. Because I'm really not, I feel myself not too creative with the wild ideas. And when somebody asks for that kind of ideas, I get stuck. And I only non-creative idea shoots out of my mouth. And I need other people's help in coming up with great ideas. So I would say maybe both. Izumi. I never thought about that, but great question, Sha.
Yeah, I like that because I think it's oftentimes we have this, myself included for a long time, we have this like black and white thinking, either or. But I think you just demonstrated a different way to think about things. It doesn't have to be A or B, either or, black and white. It could be both. And what I saw in the way how you share your thoughts is this beautiful humbleness in you, right? You're creating a space for people to co-create a certain experiences together, which I personally experience is being on your team. I remember the time, we were peer for a little while and then you become a manager. And then in my mind, I was like, wow, how do I make sure I show up in a way to make her feel like she's really the manager? But to your point, maybe there's a period of time I was being like, in that show that you just described, like I was making my own assumptions, I was doing my own little things in my head. And I recently learned about a term called, two terms. One is called a mind candy. Another one is called mental masturbation. So basically it means how we sometimes just live in our own head. And the more we come up with the certain assumptions, certain interpretations, and we want to make ourselves feel better. So we confirm that. So we then go around and confirm the assumption that we make and keep telling ourselves, wow, see how smart I was. I figured it out. That was the answer I come up with. But then that's a confirmation bias right there. And I love how you shared about the way how you show up in a male-dominated industry. It was really tough, right? Like if we show up in a way to compete with them, and then that might make them feel like threatened in a way, right? Like how do we build a trust? And I saw myself doing that in the first place. I was the only woman, the female Asian women on the team with 11 white male. I still got a picture of our team meetings. Yeah, it was first year joining Google at that time. If people are criticizing how Google does not do anything about diversity, I'm like, I do have a proof. Google has been doing a lot because, 7 years ago, there was not much diversity. But now look at the teams now, you got people from different backgrounds. And when I think about diversity, it's not just about gender or which country you're from, like even personality or the way the thought process and all that stuff. What are the most challenging situation or the darkest moments that you experienced as Asian women working in tech?
I don't know if I have experienced that because like my past was like so much harder that anything I'm experiencing in here is like, oh, it's a bliss compared to that horrible experience in my childhood.
What happened in your childhood? What happened? It was so dark. Because the first meeting when I joined the team, I remember everyone was so stressed out about whatever is going on, like the team meetings. Sometimes you feel like some people are present, some people are not present. They're multitasking, especially, via Google Meet or Zoom. And you're the only person. I'm like, she's here. She's here with us. She's present. And she's so happy about everything. And like, but you keep talking about like the life you have right now, the work you have now, you're so grateful for. And I feel like for people who can come to that realization, they went through something that no one is aware of. Like if you feel comfortable, I would love to learn more about that part of the journey. I know it's not 100% relevant to work.
No. Yeah. So surprisingly, it's about like getting bullied or being excluded from the girls like team through nursery, elementary school, junior high, and high school, and also the university. Well, as you get older, of course, it phases out. But like in nurseries and also elementary school, I really had a hard time making friends. And by the way, I'll be very honest. I truly had difficulty empathizing with other girls at that time. I recall, like when I meet a girl, I would say straight in their face, "Oh, I heard you sing yesterday, but it was really horrible." Like I mean, your song was out of tune. I noticed that. It's a fact, right? So I didn't think if I say that to that girl, she would be upset. I had no idea that would make them upset. So I would say out loud the fact. And I remember I probably was doing that to all the girls around me, not knowing that's going to hurt them. I think I had some socialization problem because maybe I was in London. I don't know. So I keep doing that. So everybody was like, didn't like me. And also, of course, I didn't follow the pack. I felt like, oh, the girls are going out into the playground and playing so and so, but I'm not that interested. I'm going to work on my like different thing with my doll. And, oh, Izumi, aren't you going to come with us? No, I'm okay. I'm going to play with my doll because that's what I wanted to do. I simply say that. But the girl feels threatened. She's not listening to me. Why? And the person will start like, Izumi's weird. You shouldn't be friends with her. Like, and they would do that right in front of me. Like when I was standing there playing with my doll, and they form a little like group, like 2 meters away from me, and saying things about me, hoping they would hear me, that kind of thing. So that went on for like 6 years in elementary school. So I and of course, I don't understand why. Now I know, Sha. So, and I was always like going back home crying. I'm excluded from the girls again and crying. And so junior high school, I thought it would change if I changed the school, but similar things started to show. And it came to the point where I can no longer get up in the morning and go to school. And then I noticed it's not about other people. I really have to look into myself, why I'm feeling so much pain. And I started writing on the notebook why I feel horrible when girls exclude me. Why? And I write it down like every single day. And then you become more and more aware of how you react to the fact, how you put meaning on the fact. Then once you know that, then you can be on the other side. I started writing about why do you think the girls would exclude me? Are they not scared of me maybe? Of course they're scared because I'm not listening to them at all. Like then I start writing. Well, that's making a lot of assumptions, but it's okay. I started writing. And those like writing down what creates a behavior of people, what creates your behavior, what triggers you with your emotion, like writing down 3 pages every single day. That really helped me cope with like any like negative situation in my life, I think. Of course, Sean, I still work on like being aware of yourself every morning. There's one phrase that I always say in the morning as an affirmation. How people react to me is not a reflection of who I am. I say that like 10 times in the morning. And because otherwise, when something happens, I still feel like, my tight chest. And then immediately how people react to me, shouting at me or like snappy email or anything. Every morning, because I chant, that phrase comes up in my brain. And it makes me feel calm down and like immediately. So yeah, so that's like still I'm working on it, but that childhood experience is really like helping me cope with any situation here. I think I still react. The more you love that person, you react more. Like great example is, of course, your husband, like your parents. So, I call my parents and especially my mom. Like my mom said, hey, I saw your photos having a barbecue party with your girlfriend. That's great. But I think the way you chose your like clothes wasn't that great. Like it's too dark. You should put on like lighter color thing. And I was so furious. And then I immediately, how people react to me because it showed up. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I lived and died on my mother's recognition, approval, and good girl. Izumi, you did a good job, good girl. And I was like the second child. And I had like such an amazing elder sister who was so smart and do everything great. She's 6 years older than I, so of course. But I was competing against her. So I realized I'm still looking for the recognition from my mom. Or like I want recognition from my husband. Like, good girl, Izumi, you did a great job. Even from probably my elder sister. And like noticing that is, I wouldn't have noticed that 10 years ago, but like recently I'm really able to notice that and makes me feel much calmer. And then I noticed, your parents are getting older. It's now the other way around. Like I am getting probably stronger than them, unfortunately. in many ways. And so they maybe are looking for my recognition or my attention or my love more. So recently I feel like I'm moving on to like protecting them. If they say something that moves my heart, it's my time to accept them and give back like some love to them versus being me angry, saying, I want your approval. I want to recognize me. I'm a good girl. But it's my time to say, I don't know how to describe it in words, but I think I'm able to move on to the next phase with a relationship with my parent just recently. I hope it was earlier, Sha.
Oh, yeah, it's never too late. It's never too late. Our relationship with our parents are like, to me, it's every single person. It's complicated, right? There's love, there's hurt, I remember one of the podcasts I listened to, I think from Brené Brown, and then she mentioned about like throughout the whole lifetime, our parents are waiting for us, for the kids, to say, thank you, mom, thank you, dad. But for the whole lifetime, the kids are waiting for the parents to say, I'm sorry. So I feel like that's something I resonated so much, like even the time when I worked at Google for almost 7 years, I thought about quitting my job at Google a few times. But then my mom's voice was in my head and saying, hey, I'm so proud of you with the job you get, with the amount of salary you get. How dare you give him up this opportunity? But deep inside of me, I knew that I was ready to explore something different. Like, I was ready to experience something different in my life. But because I was listening to my mom's voice and then holding on to that approval from her, because, finally I got a job. And it's not like finally, throughout my childhood, I had to be the top 3 students or went to the great, school for her to be happy. And I forgot about my own happiness, my own dream for a long time. My mom always said that I know you, you're my daughter, I know you. And how could someone else possibly know another person 100%? I don't even know myself 100%. I'm still exploring. Like you're saying, you're still learning about yourself. And I think the work will be a lifelong, our relationship with our parents. But they also say how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if we're able to build a loving, kind relationship with our parents, and I'm assuming that's energy we can bring into work. How does that affect your energy level at work? I'm curious because there's stress going on, right? And we can't really separate our energy at home and at work. You can't just say, I'm home, I'm going to be this version of Izumi, or I'm going to go to work, I'm going to be this version of Izumi. Some people do that, but I just feel like it's not sustainable. What do you think?
So I have this theory, your right brain and left brain thing. Like your logical brain and non-logical brain, you would just say emotion. So I try to use a logical brain to make my emotional brain act in a calmer way. But unfortunately, I have to admit, it doesn't work all the time. You forget it.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. And this is so funny. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Izumi. And I noticed how much I interrupt you even when I love your team. I was laughing because I was literally giving a workshop a couple of days ago to a group of leaders at Google. The message I was trying to deliver is how often we use our mind to quiet our mind. And how does it work for you? And it doesn't work. We can use our mind to shut down our emotions. And the way through is to feel our emotions. And anyways, I'll let you continue. Otherwise, I'm going to just hold on to the stage myself, which is not fair, but you go on.
Yeah. So I, over the last, 15 years, I created this weird habit called laughing practice. Whenever horrible things happen, I laugh. I don't know how I made this a thing for me. On my 2nd or 3rd years into being an account manager at Japan and dealing with such a hard account. And at 1 a.m. in the morning, there's a hardware crash, and I get a call while I'm asleep from the customer. That's normal. That was normal back in Japan. and our critical like system just crashed. You have to come here and fix it right away. And like, it's okay, there's nothing I can do about it, but I feel so under pressure. And I started laughing, not in front of the customer, after and that makes you feel a little bit lighter. And I called my engineering team because, it was like 24/7, support system. And the engineers are feeling so bad and horrible. But I laugh. Oh my God, things can be like worse than this. And they feel lighter, and they suddenly come up with, oh, wait a minute, Izumi, I have a great idea to solve it. And because I saw that effect, when I laugh, everything seems lighter, and people starts to feel like it's something manageable. Then they come up with ideas. And I think that moment I felt like this works for me. And so every time I encounter a tough situation, since then I just laugh. Oh, things can't be any worse than this. Oh my gosh. Like, and like jumping into now, like 3 or 4 days ago, I fell off from the stairs pretty badly. And I had coffee in my right hand. I had my laptop on my left hand. I was walking down to welcome customer, and I fell down, and I like slided like how do you say, like snowboard on my chin. It was like, really painful, but it was so like chaotic that I started laughing.
Oh,
and that makes you feel like calm down. Rather than like panicking, oh my gosh, and my heart rate going skyrocketing, I was able to calm down and put things together. Of course, my adrenaline was on, and everybody around was like a little bit feeling calmer. Of course, they were thinking, Izumi, you need to like just sit and rest. But immediately they know I'm okay. I'm like conscious and everything. And like, it's easier to move on to like actions to fix things. So that habit, just, without thinking logically, that my habit of like just laughing helps me in times of crisis or hardship. It just helps me in many ways. This way, I don't have to force my logical brain to help me with an emotional Izumi, because like my body's reacting to laughing crisis. And so that's maybe one thing that I learned. Create your own habit that your body reacts to in that way. You don't have to force yourself to get your smart self help you.
You just shared a beautiful practice. Instead of spiraling down, you can spiraling up to something that's lighter and brighter and beautiful. Some of the experiences, the stories that you had could really help someone, could help lifting someone. So some challenges, if you feel okay to share and how you overcome that might be helpful.
I can think of like maybe 2 things. One is, it really helped me when I stopped trying to compete or overtake those male like professionals. Just accept the fact how they react, and then just accept it. You don't have to fight against it. And this moves on, helps you move on to the second phase of understand their pain points. Use that. Understand what their pain points are, well in general, or specific to their role. Those male professional that you work with, understand their pain points and try solve them. Because ultimately, doing that will become a win-win. This is what I learned through my sales days. You have to sell your products, but you can't push them. You always have to start with what is their pain points, what is their business outcome that they're looking forward to getting, and how can my solution help? Only by understanding them, you can get what you want, meaning selling your products and get your revenue and get your bonus. So like, being in a neutral place, it's not about like male and female. Some people may feel so, but that's, out of your control. Let them feel so, just accept it and try to focus on what is a win-win relationship here. And if you're kept to be, providing win to other people, whether it's a female or male professional, they would start like trusting in you, and you will be able to create a great relationship with them. So just focus on like win-win relationship. It really helped me.
So I love that. Just forget about gender. It's not about male, female, Japanese, Chinese, American. Just forget about all the identity and labels we put on ourselves. But let's just focus on what's essential. Like, I love how you're talking about win-win. And I think I know where you're coming from. You mentioned that understand the pain points and use that, but I wanted to clarify because I don't think you mean to using the pain points or data points to manipulate to get what you want. Rather, you're talking about win-win because that's, my understanding about your approach to your philosophy to work. And only when we understand someone's challenges and pinpoints, and then we can co-create experiences that allow both of us to win. And that's irrelevant to whatever gender, where that person's from. And which is interesting, I recently had a weekly experiences and I had this beautiful thoughts that we're all connected. Like there's no gender whatsoever. We're all on a soul level, we're all connected. And the problem you are seeing, the problem someone else, I don't know, Michael, Tom, Jen, whoever, are facing could be the same problem I'm facing too, since we're all connected. And so it's more helpful if we focus on, discovering a little bit deeper on what each person wanted to get out of certain situation. And also knowing that by solving the problems together, and we also benefit from that situation as well. I stuck in my own head for a little while when I first joined Google, like the first couple of years. I keep thinking about, oh God, I'm the only woman on the team. I'm the only Asian on the team. Like there's no way for me to feel a sense of belonging. But hey, if we peel that part of like those identity aside, we're all human beings, with the same problems or the same desires. And I think that's just a beautiful place to be, not to just think about how different we are, but how the same we all are in challenging situations. What do you think makes us human being? Whoa, that's a quick term. I know we talk about those practical situations now, like,
because I have 2 kiddies, we talk about this theme a lot with my husband.
Okay.
And well, not a lot, like maybe once a month. And we always say they are so present. We're so jealous. But that means, and hearing the question, that means human beings are the creature who is so caught up in past and future, like stuck with the past, worrying too much about future rather than present. And maybe I should embrace it and be like thankful about it. Somebody came to me when I really asked that question. Unfortunately, I'm not at that level yet. I can't say I'm so blessed I'm always caught up with past and future. I can't say that. I really want to get out of it. That's why I do meditation. I read books like this and I do affirmation every morning, like to be present. But maybe in 10 years, if I'm older and if I am more mature about my life, I will be able to embrace being a human who is a creature who is just caught up on past and future.
Wow, that's so controversial, Izumi. I did not expect that. But just to make sure I understand this right, you're saying what makes us human being is our ability to think about the past and plan for the future, which is something that's against some of the Buddhism or mindfulness practice. Because they say that if you live in the future, you feel anxious. If you live in the past, you feel depressed. So the only happy place to be is to be in present moments. And that's why we sometimes feel jealous of our pets. Because my dog would not think about yesterday, I only took her for a 10 minutes walk instead of a 1 hour walk. And I was not feeding her. I was feeding her, but I was not feeding her favorite meal. And she was present. But then you are saying what makes us a human being is actually our ability to do something that the dogs or cats are not able to. That's wow. That's wild. Yeah.
Because I feel every time I notice, I'm not living in the present moment. Let's think on the present moment. And then I feel like peaceful. It's only because I know Izumi not doing that exists. And then I can like enjoy me who's doing that. So like it's like because of all the bad things that happens in your life, once in a while the happy moment shines and you feel so happy about it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like I need another 2 hours to contemplate this idea. Thank you, Izumi. And I know it's so interesting because part of me wanted to ask, what are you going to do with that piece of information? But then part of me is like, why do we want to have anything to do with it? Like, like 'cause nowadays, I literally just had this conversation with Jake, like my husband, and why do we want to be practical all the time? For all the information that we have, why do we always have to think about ROI, whether this is going to give me what I wanted? Sometimes it doesn't have to be that way, right? Like, what are you going to do with this piece of information you just shared with me? Maybe nothing at all, or maybe we don't know, and that's fine. And I just keep thinking about this too, like living in the corporate world, we do have a revenue goal, we do have some bottom line, and then we work backwards, right? Like, whatever we have, and then we come up with a strategy to reach that goal. And then I'm so good at strategizing, and then that's my way of thinking. But now I'm learning to let go of that piece by piece, just for a little while, to experiment how it's going to be affecting my life. And I realized I live with so much more joy, at least for my personal life. I can see if I can bring in that same philosophy to work if I ever go back to the corporate world one day. But it's just experimenting. And then this thing that you just shared with me, I think that's what makes us human beings: experimenting different philosophy, experimenting different questions, experimenting different filters we put on in different situations, and just see how it's going to happen, how it's going to affect me. I wouldn't know. Yeah, I wouldn't know if this is going to help me or not. Like, and I think the problem with us is that the more education we have, the more work experiences we have, the more sure we are about certain things.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. Experiment.
Yeah. And then
I'm going to give it a try.
How do we know? And last question for you, maybe young professionals who choose tech as the first field for them to experiment their career, what is one question that you would offer for them to contemplate so that they can go a little bit deeper in their self-awareness or their own inner journey?
Wow, that's a great and difficult question. I think I'm going to pull from my morning affirmation. It's a variation on that, but what kind of person do you want to be to create the life of your dreams? But today, what kind of person do you want to be today so that you create the life for your dreams?
I love that. What kind of person do you want it to be today? And that's important because we don't want to talk about, well, what kind of person do I want it to be 5 years from now, which is a typical question we get on the interviews. How would we know, 5 years from now? So just today.
Yes, only the accumulation of today's you will create the future you. So
I love that.
Who do you want to be today?
I love that. And that's such a fun question to play around as well. Just experiment. The Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, and he said, only when we let go what we are, what we think we are, we become what we might be. I think that works with your question, right? Like, who do I want to be? Maybe today I could say I want to be a fun person and I tried it out. And tomorrow I might say, hey, maybe I want to be a joyful person. Normally I'm not joyful. Maybe I'll try it out and then maybe I really like that. I enjoy this conversation so much, Izumi, but I don't know if there's any last word you want to share with the audience. Or not. If not, that's fine.
Yeah.
I feel like you would always have a last word.
I know, but nothing works, everybody. And your life is beautiful. Everybody's life is amazing. So let's enjoy.
Yeah, even in crisis. I love that. I'm going to try it out. Because there are going to be difficult times for me. I'm going through my transition too. So thank you so much, Izumi.
Thank you, Sha. Amazing.
Thanks for listening. If you are a conscious leader in tech, sales, and beyond, check out my free Soul Scientist community at shahardy.com/community. Sign up if you resonate with the message. And if you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe and share the show with your colleagues and friends. I'll see you next week.